My name is Eric Taylor, Barricade Cyber. You're tuning into Brutally Honest Security Podcast. And before we get started with the show, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're checking this out on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or any of the podcast medias that you're listening to, do us a favor. If you've enjoyed this, please give this thing 5 stars. Tell someone about us, and let's grow this channel. We're bringing cybersecurity in a blunt manner so that way people can understand it and get to the heart of the core issues. With that, let's get on with the podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 4 of the Brutally Honest Security Podcast. My name is Eric Taylor. Pleasure to be here today. And I got to tell you what, this one's going to be a triggering one for a lot of people, unfortunately, because of the simple fact that the whole point of the show really is to go through and say, you know what, this is the elephant in the room. And we're going to talk about the elephant in the room in a very, very blunt manner. This is definitely one of those, if you're watching, or if you're listening to it in the car on the audio version, you're probably going to want to switch over to the YouTube channel at some point in time. If you're an MSP, we're about to call you out because, this is the elephant in the room today. And businesses that are listening to this, if you're an executive suite, you need to take a very, very hard look at this episode because, again, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. We're going to talk about your outsourcing and making them be more accountable, right? And, making sure that your livelihood is on top. And we're going to talk about this in a very brutally honest way today. So let's get this thing started.
Capita has been fined £14 million by the UK Information Commissioner's Office over a 2023 cyber attack that exposed data from 6 million individuals. The attackers exploited poor segmentation and delayed response. Capita took 58 hours to isolate the breached system. Nearly 1 terabyte of sensitive data was stolen. The ICO cited serious governance failures, though it reduced the original £45 million penalty due to Capita's cooperation.
All right, so things to take away from this, ladies and gentlemen. Right off the top, they slept on notifications. Their security team. Why? Details are still very loose on this one, but being able to react in a meaningful manner on a security alert, and they slept on it. Reports are right now that the threat actor, when they were inside of the environment, they did a mock data exfiltration of around 1.2 terabytes of data, seeing that there was no triggering response from the security team, and opened up literally the damn floodgate and started exfiltrating everything from the environment. Rumor has it right now that Capita was using an MSP or an MSSP that slept on the notifications. Again, rumor and speculation, but still very, very damning, right? On here, at least 93 formal complaints were received by the ICO. From everything that I'm seeing out right now, and again, this story is still very, very fast and fluid, but there is a lot of organizations were saying, hey, there's a problem. Hey, there's a problem. We're seeing a problem. So I sit corrected here. Nearly 1 terabyte. So the initial data that was exfiltrated was like 1.69 gigs. And then they went through and exfiltrated 1 terabyte, according to this report here. And this all happened between the 29th and 30th of March. So what, 24 hours, 48 hours, if you're being conservative, being able to exfiltrate for 1 terabyte? This is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. Or if you're in management, if you're a business owner, you need to start taking a real strong look at these things, right? Because Capita offering 12 months of free credit monitoring through Experian. You know what I got to say about that? That for those who don't know, that's my dolphin, because I'm getting ready to, instead of me cursing, I play the dolphin, because that is absolutely shameful. You slept on notifications from potentially an MSP or MSSP, an outsourced security firm. Again, this may be internal, but everything I'm seeing so far is making me believe that this was an external identity or external resource to Capita. Again, I could be sitting corrected in the next week, and this was internal. Again, as with anything, things are fast and loose. This story is only a couple weeks old, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly, who is responsible for those notifications is very, very key. And even within minutes after me recording this one, it may come out. Who knows? But everything I've seen so far is not really disclosed this one. But let's just take the hypothetical. This was an MSP or MSSP, right? It's your outsourced IT or your outsourced security provider. And let's take a look at this. Okay. You're entrusting an organization to handle your IT and or security functions inside of your environment. Cool. You're leveraging outsourcing capabilities. That's awesome. Should you have it in your policy that your outsourced vendor is not able to publicly talk about their quote unquote stack, what they are using for security? To be honest with you, I don't think they should. Threat actors have been known to target MSPs and MSSPs exclusively. So it's not hard to fathom when we go over to Reddit and we see over the weekend, an honest question by an SFW IT account, not safe for work IT account. We'll leave the comments there. But been working in the industry for a few years and never run into this issue or ran into it this year more than once, or ran into it more than once. Immediately crafted packet. Our current stack is Sentinel-1, Huntress EDR, Huntress IT DDR, blah, 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on. Everybody talking about their stack. Everybody saying, well, this is what we do. This is what we do. All throughout it. And we can say even in here, we go, stack for MSP. 2024 tech stack. Do you prefer single clean for your MSP? My experiences with MSP stacks. And we're going to see right here. RMM, we moved from ConnectWise to Enable to Datto most recently. ConnectWise, blah, blah, blah. We're not here to trash on vendors this time. Security, we use Huntress and Defender ATP. All right. I don't know who New Stage 440 is, and forgive me, I'm calling you out because this is literally just me just picking posts at random. But I wonder how hard it is to reverse engineer who that particular user or any other user on Reddit is working for. If I was a threat actor, that's exactly where I'm going. I'm going to go to Reddit. I'm going to look at the cybersecurity. I'm going to look at the MSP. I'm going to look at the IT communities And, what are they talking about? Are they going to disclose something? Well, if I'm a threat actor and I know there's an exploit in ThreatLocker or ConnectWise or Data or name your vendor here, then I'm going to start looking up who that person is. Who does that person work for? All right, perfect. Now I have a company I can go attack. Do you see where I'm going with this, business owner? When you're talking about cybersecurity inside of your environment and you're putting the trust into an external vendor, well, you know what? Damn it, they should not be able to talk about that openly. They shouldn't. They're putting a target on their back. Now, I know these people on Reddit are trying to be helpful. And again, the person username I mentioned before, I'm not shaming them at all. Don't conflate what I'm saying. I'm just saying people need to have more operational security or OPSEC in their day-to-day lives. You got to freaking stop talking about your stacks in a public forum. Create a burner account if you need to. If you feel like you really need to talk about your stack because how great it is, create burners account. That way it can't be traced back to you in your organization. But from a business, again, you don't want people knowing what kind of security your particular vendor is using. Creating policies in the MSA, Managed Services and Agreement, and your SOW, Scope of Work, that you're signing with your vendor should be in there. You're not disclosing on any social media about the security that you are implementing to make my business secure. Take that for a stance. That's like saying we use ADT for our cyber or for our locks, our alarm system. Sorry. So we use ADT for our alarm system. Well, guess what? It wouldn't be very hard to figure out what my company address is just by a quick Google search. And if you've ever worked at ADT or had a buddy at ADT, guess what? All their installers have the same freaking code, either in geographic location as in a state, sometimes even very broad regions, depending on the organization you work for as an installer for ADT. Don't ask me how I know. Maybe I'll tell you that offline. But I'm just saying it's not hard to get that operational security to know that ADT has default codes for their installers. And now you can just get into the organization, turn off the alarm system as with the installer code and do what you need to do. This is nothing different. And to me personally, I think people need to stop talking about their stack online because you're giving away operational security. Also for businesses, and I tell the people that use us all the time, test us, test my response policy, test the team's response policy. How long does it take for us to isolate your environment when something happens? Going back to the original story, you got to test your security programs and your vendors that you're using. Put them on notice, put them not on notice, whatever one you feel comfortable with. But test your security platforms. Let's say hypothetically, you have controlled access control in your Microsoft 365 tenancy. You want to go through and say, okay, I'm going to, the policy says nobody should be able to log in from outside of the US as a use case scenario. I'm going to go on a VPN and I'm going to log in from China, Japan, South America, pick your country of origin here and see, can I log in? Ooh, that's not good if I was able to. Now let's start a stopwatch. How long does it take before I get an email or my account gets locked out and a phone call? What are the steps of procedure? It's called a playbook, ladies and gentlemen. These are the things that need to be happening. You need to start holding your vendors to a higher standard. And vendors, you start looking internal and holding yourselves up to a higher standard. And I'm looking at even myself. Even though I'm looking at here in this camera, if you're watching on stream, but I'm looking at myself right here off to the side. I got to always hold myself to a higher standard because of the position that we're in. But that's why I can come on here and rant about these things, because these things are stuff that are going to make compromises much easier going into 2026. Need to have a hard conversation, folks. I hope this is helpful. Hold yourselves accountable. Hold your vendors more accountable. Stop letting them talk about their security stacks on freaking social media. And I'm not just talking about Reddit. I'm talking about all social media. I know Facebook has got so many MSP groups and they talk about it too. So I'm not bashing Reddit. But you got to stop talking about your stacks. It probably takes somebody with half a brain of OSINT skills to be able to reverse engineer what your username is across multiple other channels and quickly be able to discern who you are. And now you're the biggest target on the face of the earth because you're an MSP disclosing your tools that you're using. And you're opening up yourself to risk and your clients up to even more risk. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know what you feel. Let me know how you feel about what I feel in the comments below. I'll be willing to, I'm very interested to see what everybody's got to say. With that, take care. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay secure, my friends.